Tonight, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Dr. Karen January and actress Imani Hakim. Dr. January has 25 years' experience as a teacher, counselor, administrator, and behavioral specialist. She has been a professor of psychology at Chicago State University and an online advice columnist for the Chicago Defender newspaper. Dr. January has initiated numerous youth programs that earned her the prestigious Oppenheimer Family Foundation Award. Actress Imani Hakim landed her first television role in 2005 as one of the leads in the hit show Everybody Hates Chris, followed by guest star appearances on many shows such as ER, CSI, State of Affairs, The Replacements, Wizards of Waverly Place, and others. In 2014, Imani earned 2 Movie Guide Awards and the award for Outstanding Actress in a TV Movie or Miniseries, portraying 13-year-old Olympic gold medalist Gabby Douglas in the Lifetime movie The Gabby Douglas Story. She had a lead role in Chocolate City, co-starring Vivica Fox, and most recently in the Sundance feature Burning Sands with Alfre Woodard, and Stephen Harris. They bring us tonight Dr. January's book, Lessons Mama Never Taught Me.
These are just some scenes from the book that I wanted to show you to pique your interest. There are a few cliffhangers, so you're probably going to want to know what happens at the end of it. This is one of the chapters, chapter 1, about Anne Marie, one of the young ladies who had many challenges, of which we'll be talking about tonight. You know that was a surprise.
I did know that. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I thought, and I like those clips there too.
Did you?
I did. I think,
so does it look like an upcoming movie, maybe?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I think it's cool because most of the time people are more visual anyway. So
Yes.
once you put something on the paper, but then you add a visual to it, you can grasp it a lot easier.
You can see it better.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are visual learners, as we all know, audio or kinesthetic. They want to touch. So this way, I thought I could reach everybody, and you would get a pretty good idea of what's going on. But the book needed to be written because I was seeing that our young girls were being consumed by pop culture created by the media and technology. And I'm talking about reality shows and social media. So they have kind of like consumed them and drawn them in, and we know there's a lot of problems like that. I was looking at some of the reality shows because I work with young people who are ages 10 to 17 that are locked up for first, second-degree murder, armed robbery, those kind of things. And so that kind of inspired me to write this book because a lot of the young ladies would tell me, I have no mother, role model, no support system in the home. And I would ask them, well, what kind of things do you think that if your mother had taught you, you would have done better? And so we started, looking at some of the issues and topics. And some of those, of course, are self-esteem, but of course that can't be taught. That's something that has to be in the home as you're growing up. And we talked about body image. A lot of our girls have problems with that now. And as a therapist, I have young people coming to me, 5-year-olds saying, I don't like my nose. I'm too this. I want to fix this on my body. These are 5-year-olds. Where are they getting this from? Well, we know from the media, definitely. So that definitely presents a problem. So,
Absolutely.
How do you learn from the very beginning and you don't have a family because, half the marriages are in divorce. So the other half is probably struggling somehow in another crazy way. So there's really no sense of community or family to begin that basic understanding.
You are so correct. We've almost lost, I think, the village. We used to have a village. Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically, I just feel too like technology is the new drug for young and old. It's a big problem. It's like it's everywhere. You can't.
Finding a lot of mothers and people in support systems are not doing that. That's why I wrote the book. So it's almost like a blueprint. You have to have something, a guide, for them to go through to be able to get through some of these issues and topics. But there's so many. I talk about sexual assault. First of all, there are 10 women that tell their story of different challenges they went through. In fact, they really went through hell in them telling the story. Some of them they had to stop. They were crying. It was a catharsis thing. So they told their stories about lessons they felt their mothers didn't teach them and why they had so many problems and challenges in life. So, the main thing is to start early. We wait sometimes until these girls are teenagers. And not only that, let me stop saying girls, because this information is not only for young girls. What about our young boys and our men too? They need to have this, information too. So we need to talk to, both of them. Fathers need to talk to their sons and their young boys, and the mothers need to talk to their young girls, and maybe we can have a happy medium. But it definitely starts early in the home, and research is saying between the ages of 5 and 6. If you wait to tell a young girl 16, look, you shouldn't be doing that, you know what you're going to get. The attitude, quick, fast, and in a hurry. So if you start young teaching them these things, like decision making, we just assume, oh, they'll get it. They'll know how to make decisions. But you can start young. Let them decide, okay, what do you want to wear today? What vegetables do you want to eat? Let them start making simple decisions early so that when they get older, they'll be able, to do these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Amen. I want to talk about one of the clips that you showed with
Yes.
Melissa. So, she was being pimped out by her mother and her cousin. So, what type of psychological issue can that cause for a young lady as she becomes an adult? What kind of trauma do you
Oh,
think she
definitely.
experienced?
Post-traumatic stress disorder. And she was, the family, just briefly, because I want you to buy the book and read it. I don't want to tell you every story in it, because then you just walk out of here with your sandwich and cookie, and nobody will have a book. But anyway, the family became separated, and the mother said the only way to keep them together was for her to sell her body. So that's what she did. And a lot of people seem surprised, but there are a lot of young
that
girls.
happens. That
that
happens
people
way
don't-
more than we think it
I
happens.
know.
Yeah.
A lot of young girls are doing that for their families, as well as a lot of young people are selling drugs for their families so that they can have, because they would tell me, well, I have to do it because otherwise we won't have a place to stay and we won't have any food on our table. So it's kind of like a catch-22. They know that it's something illegal and they shouldn't be doing, but in another point, do they want their family to be homeless and be out on the street and be hungry? So it's kind of like, which one they're going to do. So, but anyway, sexual assault, we know, is very serious. And a person like that is called, of course, a pedophile. So that person is basically attracted to pre-adolescent children. So that's what was happening there. And they say there's not really much you can do for that other than give them medication. But anyway, you'll find out what happened to her in the end. It's quite a shocking end. A lot of these women who went through these things, they tell how they healed and how they got through what they had to get through. That's why this is a good book for young girls and young women and young boys and young men, both of them.
You were just speaking on the lengths that we're willing to do, what we're willing to do to help out our family. And so, since we're talking about that, let's talk about High Roller Maria in Chapter 3. There are a lot of women trafficking drugs for their lovers and sometimes their side pieces.
What's
Yeah.
a side piece?
The thing on
Chicken,
the side.
2 piece and a biscuit? What's a side? With honey? A packet of honey? What are we talking about?
I love honey.
Yeah, I do too.
Why do you think women find that lifestyle acceptable? Well, how do you think women fall into that?
Okay, a lot of women, when they fall into that, are basically doing drugs themselves sometimes. So this is an easy out for them to hook up with someone who's already, in that, do I call it a career? It's not. Is selling drugs a career, or is it a what do we call it? Lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
Thank you. Absolutely, lifestyle. Yeah. So they do it for that reason, and which I guess makes sense. If you hooked up with the supplier, it certainly makes it a lot easier, for you to get your hands on it. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll have to read about her too and find out how she got out of it. She wound up selling drugs to NFL athletes. So her story is quite interesting. the NFL parties and how she transported drugs back and forth, and quite interesting. But I won't give the whole story away. Because again, you want to read it for yourself.
I read the whole book, guys, and it's really good. And I think it's definitely for everyone should purchase it. Men, women, young children, or it's you have a chapter in there with a young woman in there, or a girl.
Yes.
Which I'm so happy that you incorporated that, because
Absolutely.
we got to hear a different voice.
Right.
From a
Different age.
Different age.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of children, so sexual abuse is very common, way more common than we know it to be. And why do you think children are afraid to open up to their parents about such a touchy topic?
Okay. First of all, like I keep repeating, they parents need to start talking to their children early. And if we do that, I try to do that with my children, to let them know, if you feel uncomfortable, if someone's doing something to you or touching you or you don't feel right, come and let me know. But we know what happens with that. They tell them, they'll tell you, if you tell, I'm going to kill your mother, or I'm going to hurt your father, or I'm going to, do something horrible to someone in the family. So, of course, if you're telling that to a little 8-10-year-old girl, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to say, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to see my mother hurt, or I don't want to be taken away from my parents, so they don't say anything. But I have found in talking to a lot of parents that have started talking to their children earlier that they did not have that problem. In fact, I know of parents who their kids came to them and told them that they were having problems. So that might be one solution, to start early.
To get the discussion happening.
Discussion.
And I think you're doing a great job by doing that, by presenting this book. We're talking about it, we're here, we're opening up the discusking. I think that's very important.
And you're doing great as a moderator, asking the questions.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to give you the answers. So that's
okay.
That's fantastic.
I personally think that being alone is very empowering. And I feel like as women, we're not told enough that it's okay to be by yourself. And sometimes we may depend or want to have that man, that we want to lean sometimes on, and not realize that there's power in being by yourself.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you've learned by being by yourself? What are some powerful moments that you've had?
Well, I'm not by myself. I have no, but I know.
Not even being as a partner, but just having that moment to just
like you said, on somebody else, like I can't make it. And there's a lot of fear in that we don't want to. We may uncover something that we don't like or want to see in ourselves. And sometimes even like the other night in Chicago, I guess you all know I'm from the Chi, the lights went out. And I'm like panicking. I don't have a TV, I don't have a radio, I don't have music. It was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? So it was quite enlightening to just sit there in the dark with a candle and just think, and be with myself. It's okay to be with yourself. You don't always have to have somebody there with you.
Absolutely. I can relate to that.
Get a chance to know yourself. I wonder what anyone else thinks about that.
Do you guys, like for me, I'm in a relationship. I've been in a relationship for over 2 years, but sometimes I have to tell, my boyfriend, I'm like, okay, I need a day or two to just be by yourself. And that's okay, because you don't want to, it's supposed to be a partnership. You're two individuals coming together, so I think it's important to be able to separate.
You don't see that on the card.
And what is the?
We have children here.
Oh,
no, I'm just, oh gosh, I'm turning red. No. Oh, I literally I am. The problem with that is when you open that door, the first thing a child is going to say when they determine, or when it's time that they want to have sex, they're going to say, well, you did it, so why can't I? So lie. No, don't. No, don't lie. It would depend on the relationship that you have with your child. That's the main thing. Do you feel comfortable enough with them to have that discussion? And that would be the main thing. But I wouldn't say lie. I mean, you can be truthful. Please don't tell me you were 9 years old when you first had sex. Don't do that. But yeah, it would depend on the relationship you have with your child. And if you've done everything and done that foundation, then you won't have any problem with having that discussion. Or how does it parents and adults always say, don't do as I do as I say. So, that's how that goes. Would anyone out here that has children?
Do you guys have any questions?
Would you tell your child if they asked you? Well, mom, well, dad.
Or when do you think is the appropriate age to have that discussion?
Out here that has
Do
children.
you guys have any
Questions?
Would you tell your child if they asked you?
My goddaughter, she can come to me with whatever she wants, and I will keep most confidences, but not all. I'm just being honest. There are some things that I need to know that your mother and father know. So, and then we figure out a way to handle it. So I think it's important. If you're not the person who can have that conversation, then have someone there who can come to you when your daughter is 12 and says that she wants to have sex. What are you going to do? Because, well, never mind. I just leave it at that. But I think you can't have your head in the sand because the kids are exposed to so much everywhere: music, television, internet. It's everywhere.
It's all out there.
It's everywhere.
It's not hidden like it was when I was coming up. It was taboo to talk about sex. You just didn't do that. It was like only fast girls talk about that. No, I was not a fast girl.
That if a child is coming to you about sex, no matter what age, obviously it's for a reason. So you don't need to lie, but you might need to be a little curious about why they're asking you that, and be very creative with the questions you ask. I wouldn't say necessarily reveal the age of when you've had sex, but you always have to be a step ahead and be ready for that because now kids are having sex younger. It's not a secret. And they're going to have it regardless. Right. So you really want to be very conscious. Don't make them feel like they can't come to you about anything else because guarantee they're still going to do it. So you need to make them comfortable regardless of how uncomfortable you are in that conversation because you will be. And if you think that you can't do it, you should definitely appoint someone else. Because the conversation needs to happen.
I think the thing that is so brilliant is what a child doesn't receive, they seldom give later. And most of the women, I teach nursing, and most of my students never got it from their own parents. So they, at 40 years old, can't really even give it at that point to the child. And as far as sex goes, I've been in that situation a lot with a lot of other children. And I'm not interested. I think I agree 100% with you that, they're going to have sex no matter what. But they may not realize the repercussions that come with it. We have different ages for different things. And you may not be ready to have sex. And what happens if you have sex with a young man and then the next day it's all over Facebook? Or he said he loves you and then he doesn't even look at you the next day. Or you get a sexually transmitted disease. Or you get pregnant, So these are the things that a mother or somebody in the community has to point out to children and that they really haven't yet.
Wonderful comment. And that's why it was a coach.
We also have to give children a greater sense and a passion that this is what you feel now, but at 20 years old, are you going to feel
the same way?
And that's very real.
Absolutely. Well, according to research, you should start young talking to your children about sex, even as young as 3 and 4 years old. We don't have to go through the stork brought you here or any of that. I think that's what my mother told me. To name the parts the way they should be. It's not your cookie, key, it's not your pocketbook, it's not your, it's not your ding-a-ling, it's your, you have to, no, seriously, you have to, if you're gonna have that talk, then you need to, to tell them exactly what it is. And then, like I said, again, talking about good touch and bad touch, they need to know that absolutely too, so they can be aware that people, we don't want to scare them, but you can let a person know if someone touches you and you didn't like that, it didn't feel good.
To be able to tell the difference between
tell the difference between a hug or love and then someone, just rubbing a little bit too hard, then you need to let them know that too.
We have time for just one or two more questions.
Okay.
Someone else touched on drugs or something over there. Because I think you tied sex and drugs into one thing, but we're talking about like how things are happening earlier and earlier and earlier, and how there's no way of avoiding that. So we're gonna keep going on the taboo subjects here. Did you ever use?
Why this question directed toward me? I'm just
did anyone out here experience? Yeah, did you ever deal with that? Being tempted to deal with, because there's so much temptation with sex and peer pressure with drugs and sex. Did you ever go through that? And how did you handle it?
No, and no. I take the fifth. No, but you are approached as, I guess we can think back to those days of teen years. We know about peer pressure, and somebody is going to say to you, well, I know I hear my girls talking there, and they're like, oh, you haven't had sex yet? What's wrong with you? You got a problem? So it's all this pressure, and then the guys, let's talk about the guys, they, put that pressure on you too, because the famous words I always used to remember growing up was, well, if you love me, you would be with me. And so, and I'm finding out, talking to the young ladies, it's the same old line. Nothing has changed, If you cared about me, you would do this. So that is that pressure there. And again, like I said, that's why I have this blueprint for our young ladies and for parents, mothers, whoever, support systems, to start talking to our young girls. And we've got to do that because, the more technology we start having, more social media, and they're getting answers from their friends. They figure, and we want them to have the right information. So here, and this is your little spot over here, and I'm not going to cross over there to say anything to your child, and don't you cross over here. Some parents get offended now if you say something to their child. And that's just, I think I was in some store, and the little kid was in the game section, and they were opening the box, taking all the marbles out, just carrying on, and I just politely went to the mother. I said, your son is over there, in the box. Don't you tell me. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So you're almost like, do you say something, to correct the behavior, or do you just let it go? But I think, what you were saying, to your point, we need to start. I try to take on 2 or 3. I do a lot of mentoring, so I talk to young girls. So I'm not just talking to people in my family. I'm outside of my family now. So if, like I said, if I see a young person on the street and I see a behavior that is unbecoming, I will approach them and say something. A lot of times we just say, let them keep doing it. But maybe no one has told them that this behavior is inappropriate or not positive. They may not even know that.
When I was young and acted that way, I got a slap across the face. So how do you feel about corporal punishment? Do you feel as though the butt kickings that have disappeared over the past 20 years?
Corporal punishment. I've never believed beating a child will make, will resolve a solution. A little space. Well, you gotta, because I think most of us have had the belt. How many of you all had the belt to spank it? Parenting style, that's the other thing. If you have a good connection and working relationship with your child, if they're listening and not hard-headed, then you might be able to talk to them. And if not, then you have to have the strap talk to them. And, he's like, yes, I like that. Is that what you got?
I got the belt, I got the broomstick, I got whatever was in arm's reach. And seriously, and basically that's what, I appreciate it to this day, because
Yes, and it made you a better person. A lot of times we know talking doesn't work because our teenagers are even, well, they've always been belligerent, but they may be getting a little bit even more now saying something. Because you have a sister, and I don't know, what type of child she is, but definitely, why do we have to call it corporal? That's like, so harsh. Because now I remember some kids saying I'm gonna call the authorities and turn you in, and now they will arrest you for child abuse. So we have to kind of figure out how far you want to go with that. Just make sure there are no whelps.
Right. No evidence.
No evidence. I'm just so excited to be here in New York, and I would like to thank you all for bringing all this wonderful, beautiful energy to me. I want to thank you, Miss Imani, and hopefully we will get a chance to do this again in another city coming soon. I would like to thank my 3 sons, my family that's here, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and my cousins, and I would like to thank Barnes & Noble for inviting me to do the book signing. I appreciate that. And I would also like to thank the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you all for coming out. You came from what? Manhattan, Brooklyn? Bronx.
Big round of applause for Dr. Karen January.